Call for Connor! No, for the millionth time, I'm not gonna make a wrestling podcast. Look, there's like 50 million of them, and that's not even including wrestling. Who am I gonna talk about anyways? Evil. Look, you can try and convince me to use evil, but the schmuck is called Evil. Who names themselves Evil and expects everyone to think they're evil? Wait, he's evil now? What, like, evil? Like, Dexter's Laboratory evil, or are we talking, like, evil supervillain evil? Wait, he beat Naito? Oh, no. Yeah, this is your trap, isn't it? You're gonna start making me talk and... Where's the music coming from? No, wait, this is a set. Look, I am not gonna be doing a... In the inaugural episode of the Wrestling with Fiction podcast, we'll be discussing Evil. Where he will go, what is he doing in his current feud, and future opponents, including the ones that are regular, non-regular, and some that are just plain fictional. But for now, please welcome everyone, from your friends to your friendliest friend, to the Wrestling with Fiction podcast! Hi, welcome to the Wrestling with Fiction podcast. Holy shit, we have a first episode. So, this is the episode nobody's gonna watch. So, hi there everyone, my name is Connor. I feel like because this is the first episode, I need to get all the prerequisites out the way. So, kind of been a wrestling fan since I was, as far as I can remember, if I'm honest. Just wanted an excuse to talk about wrestling, but not in the traditional way, where everyone's just investigating today's SmackDown review, or AEW review, or anything else. I just kind of wanted to make a wrestling podcast to show, the fun of wrestling. The awesome, the stupid, and just kind of the damn right goofy stuff, because I think that's pretty much the best parts of wrestling. Coughing. Great. So, yep, today's podcast episode is the inaugural one, and you must be asking, why is it on Evil? Do you know who Evil is? He looks like the most craziest goth vampire Grim Reaper guy to ever visit all of Japan. Why him? He just seems fun to talk about, really. So, little prerequisites before we get onto the topic of Evil. I am probably not the best person to talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, or any wrestling in general. I can't say I've been in the business, or said that, I know what this thing is. I know how things should work. This is how wrestling should work, because nobody knows how wrestling should work. Wrestling is like films and movies. It's subjective. So, keep that in mind. I'm not gonna know everything that's happening at this point, or how something should go, or how this thing should be. It's all gonna be my own perspective, and what I think would be fun, and what I think would be damn right stupid, which we'll get onto later. Segues. So, yeah. Evil. Whether you like him, you hate him, or you're kind of indifferent like me, he's the current IWGP Heavyweight Champion and current IWGP Intercontinental Champion after defeating Tetsuya Naito at Dominion. Don't know how to think about that. So, I've always had this weird thing with Evil. How, as sort of mentioned in the intro, his name is Evil. Like, immediately when I think of that, I don't think of someone who's evil, I think of someone who's trying to cosplay as someone being evil. When I started getting into New Japan, around, say... It was at the beginning of when Kenny started to become the leader of the Bullet Club. So, I didn't really know much about Evil. I just kind of knew him through Naito and Bushi. And to me, I feel like as members kept on piling on to LIJ, he just suddenly just slid through the cracks. I feel like in sort of my perspective as the faction progressed, Shingo and Sanada kind of filled the role of what Evil was meant to be in the faction. Like, I think a lot of people tend to forget this when they look at New Japan, or because there's a lot of new recent viewers. But when sort of Evil was given his first sort of singles title run as the never openweight champion, and then he quickly lost it back to Shibata, he kind of just went nowhere after that. I mean, he had a couple runs in the tag league with Sanada, in which he eventually won the tag titles. And then he did have a couple brief stints facing Okada for the heavyweight title. But Evil's kind of been... He's kind of been in the Tomohiro Ishii role of sort of LIJ, where he's kind of been on the cusp of something. But as sort of time has progressed, there have been other people who have sort of passed him by. When I think of Evil, I think of other people who eventually rose above him, say, arguably Hiromu, in his current role, arguably as New Japan's junior ace, Sanada slowly rising up the ranks, finally beating Okada a year ago, and arguably Shingo. He started to have a great sort of rapport with Naito, sort of now capturing the Never Openweight Championship, which, by the way, love Shingo. He's great. Please do more with him. So I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, and we need to focus on Evil here. So, yes, in case you don't know, and you're just hearing about Evil for the first time on this podcast, Evil is now the current leader of the Bullet Club, Japanese's big, well, usually known as its big foreign heel faction. The best way to kind of describe it is, it's usually known as the Gaijin faction, but due to sort of current pandemic issues, it's now currently the Japanese iteration of the Bullet Club, which we'll go on to that later, and kind of my thoughts on that and the way that I think this could actually progress in the future. But for now, I'm just going to go over what the premise of this podcast is and what we're going to do. So, as I alluded to before, the Wrestling with Fiction podcast isn't your traditional wrestling podcast. Is it fantasy booking? Kind of. We'll get to a reason why that is later. Is it a review of sorts? Not really. It's kind of, what is his current feud right now? What are my thoughts on it? What are the other things in store for him? I don't know. You don't know. It's speculation. It's the fun parts. So, yeah, I think we should get started on this. So, of course, we'll talk about the current feud that's going to be happening, I think in about a month or so, I believe. I could be wrong, I haven't been fully up to date. But of course, we've got the Summer Struggle Tour. We've got Evil facing Naito on one of the main event nights for the IWGP Heavyweight title and the Intercontinental Championship. Immediately, love that. Love the fact that Naito's getting another shot. I feel like I'll admit this, I'm not the biggest fan of Naito. If I'm looking at my favorite member of LIJ, I'll probably go with Hiromu any day, just because I think he's so sporadic and spontaneous and crazy. And I think that type of style is it's very unique to try in Japan, I think. And I can't explain why, other than just, I feel like his personality and charisma extends farther than language barriers do, compared to the rest of LIJ. Like, Naito, I feel like Naito is really mainly known through the context of his story and his progression as a character. Whereas Hiromu, you don't really need as much background to fully understand what he's about and that he's a nutjob, and you will love him. So, for me, this feels like the time for which Naito's probably going to reclaim the belt. For me personally. I feel like this was done in the similar way as Taichi was given the Never Openweight Championship, I think about a year ago. It was used to sort of give a wrestler credibility within New Japan. New Japan does this from time to time where they'll give someone a title and then they'll hold it for, I'd say, a reasonably small period of time until they eventually lose it, but then commentators can mention he was a former such and such, which in turn adds credibility to them, so whenever they enter another title match, oh geez guys, he could potentially win this. And I feel like that's what they're doing with Evil right now. They haven't really got any top heels at the moment for New Japan, specifically. The most likely bet, apart from Evil, is Minoru Suzuki. I would say maybe if they wanted to elevate Zack Sabre Jr. or potentially Taichi, just because Taichi is naturally hated, that could be something, but I feel like this edition of Evil is kind of a shotgun way of introducing the audience to their new top threat that they can just hate because of how beloved Naito has been, especially with his rise to the championship. But in the event that Evil does win or lose from this, where else does he go? Well, I'm glad nobody asked, because this will likely have no viewers. I feel like there could potentially also be, as alluded to a few years ago with Kenny Omega as head of the Bullet Club, we could get Inter-Faction Warfare! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We could be getting ourselves Jay White versus Evil, aka Japanese Bullet Club, versus American Bullet Club. Yay! Or no, depending on what you're thinking about that. I don't know. I'm putting on a voice. I don't know what to do here. This is how I talk. So, with that, Jay White, Evil. I feel like that's an interesting match. But not necessarily for the wrestlers involved, but the people around it. When I think of the main conflict of this feud, I don't necessarily think Evil and Jay White. I think Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, Bad Luck Fale, and Gedo. Because just from the perspective of just Gedo all of a sudden siding with Evil, the new introduction of Evil into the Bullet Club, what role does Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows play into this? You know, even though they're currently in Impact Wrestling, there was teasers of them potentially going to New Japan. Where do they sort of fit into this? Where does sort of Evil's credibility on top of Bullet Club stand if Jay White eventually comes back? I don't know how this would really fit, and also where Kenta would be in this. Keep in mind, Kenta, Taiji, they were brought in via Tama Tonga and Jay White. But lately, with the New Japan tag matches that we've had with Evil, he's been tagging up with Taiji Ishimori. He'd likely also be tagging up with Kenta, potentially? I'm not sure. The new introduction of Dick Togo. I feel like that sort of implosion in Bullet Club could fulfill what we didn't quite get with the Elite and the Bullet Club situation that we had. Because when Kenny Omega and Tama Tonga eventually had a brief scuffle at the US shows in Japan. The US shows in Japan, Jesus Christ, Connor. The US shows in Japan. What is this? I believe the show was in Dallas. I could be wrong. When Tama Tonga and Tongaloa eventually betrayed Kenny and the rest of the Elite, that whole conflict, we didn't quite get a resolution to that, because after that, several months later, we had Tanahashi versus Omega, and of course, Omega leaving for AEW. I would quite like to see that inter-brand warfare just for the audience's reactions, and just sort of who they would choose to side with. You know what I mean? I feel like this kind of heel versus heel dynamic isn't really something that's usually explored in Japan, or at least New Japan specifically, apart from the G1. So it'd kind of be neat to see how people would react to it. Especially because of the differences between the Japanese crowds and the American crowds. I don't know who they would really side with. Jay White is just... he's like the anti-Okada. And it would be interesting if we would sort of see the audience sort of revert back to loving him when he was young lion Jay White back in the Best of Super Juniors. Where they were Jay White, oh, Jay White, oh. I would kind of want to see that. And kind of... if sort of his style would change to fight with Evil. Because Evil kind of, to me, has that bruiser style of Tomohiro Ishii. Not to the extent of Tomohiro Ishii, but he kind of feels the same role in just sort of the Japanese strong style. And I don't know how to really end that for, other than just... that feels like a feud that you could potentially do with Evil if you don't want him to be Naito Evil for the next several months after Summer Struggle. Other ideas? Potentially? Evil's an interesting case just because of the state of the world right now and New Japan's current reliance on foreign talent, so to speak. I feel like in the past 5 years, they've started relying on more people like Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega for a brief period, Jay White, Bad Luck Fale, just the whole Bullet Club faction as New Japan's began to sort of market themselves to more international audiences. And for me, another person who I'd think he would feud with is Sanada. I feel like with Sanada specifically, and just sort of the character of Evil at this point, we've rarely seen any interaction with them. Little to nothing. And I feel like Evil would kind of want to sort of destroy him in the same way that he wanted to destroy Hiromu. In the way that he just sort of cut a promo just saying, "I'll send you straight to hell." I feel like he'd want to do that with the rest of LIJ. You know? Not just Naito, not just Hiromu. Maybe even Shingo. Just, I feel like there's another LIJ member who Evil could potentially feud with. My best guess would be Sanada because, well, it feels like they're slowly elevating Sanada to that main event sort of challenger level. Maybe not potentially world heavyweight champion, but that's hard to say because Evil's the champion right now. But I don't think they know what they want to do with Sanada just yet, and they're only just starting to figure out what they want to do with Evil. Even as far as Evil's whole appearance that he has right now, he's still sort of developing it. Like, I won't shut up about this, but he wore a skirt to win the world title. He's still clearly figuring stuff out. I don't know what else could be the thing that he would need. But we're gonna find out, to be honest. Like, he's still very early into this new character. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how he sort of develops and changes. We don't really know much about this current Evil, other than he's now the new pseudo leader of the Bullet Club. And I feel whoever beats him is gonna get such a huge elevation of it if it isn't Naito. Sanada would be my probably main candidate for this. Or even, wait for it, my other idea, and it's one that's pre-established, It's one that kind of ties into the whole rise from his New Japan Cup victory to his victory against Tetsuya Naito. Tomohiro Ishii. Because what feud have we had for the past year or so where it's just been evil versus someone? It's been Ishii, who is a person that I don't think many people would mind going for the heavyweight title again. Maybe even winning it after consistent work for the past several decades. Ishii. And for me, that's such a good story to tell. Because New Japan, it's very rare for people to get the IWGP heavyweight title. There's only really a select few individuals who are able to receive such a thing. There was a specific statistic I remember who was talking about, I think it was the last 6 or 7 years, there's only been about 6 different IWGP heavyweight champions. And I feel like Ishii's sort of consistent work rate that he's always had since, well, at least as far as I've been watching, he's been so consistent with anyone they've put in front of him. And yeah, he's had rewards such as winning the tag titles. He's had a couple of great runs with the Never Openweight Championship. I feel like if there's any time they could have Evil and Ishii feud again, it would be now, and it would probably have just as much intrigue, if not more. Because we've already seen Okada go for the world title at this point. He's currently probably focused on the King of Pro Wrestling tournament, or whatever they're planning to do with that. I feel like now would be a great time for Ishii. And, come on. We've seen sort of the teaser of him against Naito, against Okada, of potentially winning the world title. And even though Ishii kind of feels Chaos's role of sort of Minoru Suzuki is kind of that veteran character, I feel like the New Japan audience would be pretty well behind Ishii if he won that belt. And with it, I don't think it hurts Evil at all. I feel like with this new character that he's sort of built up and the quick shot that he's had of winning the World Heavyweight title, it kind of, as sort of previously spoken about before, still keeps the credibility that he has from winning the double championship. Not many people, apart from Naito himself, can say they've been IWGP Heavyweight Champion and Intercontinental Champion at the same time. Others have been individuals, not Evil. Because at this point, you can say that he's been a Tag League winner, he's been a multiple-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, he's been Never Openweight Champion, which I think a lot of people tend to forget, and was also Never Openweight 6-man tag titles, don't know what they're doing with that. And if he potentially wins or loses the belt, either at Summer Struggle or at this idea, he's also been the IWGP Heavyweight Champion and Intercontinental Champion. He's basically New Japan's current Grand Slam champion, if you think about it. Except for the US title, he's pretty much done everything. There's been a lot of talk about, with the whole COVID situation, that Evil is arguably the most beneficial victory of this whole situation. And I think in this situation, it's very true. So, I want to know sort of everyone else's thoughts on Evil. I don't want it to just be me talking about this and getting no response. If you end up watching this episode, feel free to give me some sort of response. I don't know how. I'll probably have stuff sorted out in a description or title or whatever this is. This is the pilot. I don't know what I'm doing. So, before I end the show, which I think I will, as this is the pilot, I'm still developing this stuff. I still have more speculation I can think of with this. I'm gonna end it on what I like to call Fantasy Fumble. What is Fantasy Fumble, you may ask? Fantasy Fumble is exactly what it sounds like. It's fantasy booking, but worse. Fantasy Fumble is, apart from very catchy alliteration, a segment on this podcast in which I will probably do as the ending of this show, where I will pitch the most stupidest storyline idea that I can come up with. But, a couple prerequisites with this. It must make some sort of storyline sense or have some relation to characters the person in question will know. So, without further ado, 3, 2, 1, fumble! Let the dumpster fire begin! Right, so we all know Evil. He is evil. He is evil as Evil McEvil McEvilton. He is evil. But what is evil most fearful of? People. So, and what are people also? Luchadors. Why luchadors? Not matadors? Because we're featuring Bushi, boys. That's right. What is Bushi known for? Being a luchador. And what are luchadors known for? Being athletic, fast, and quick. As we all know, as Evil has currently changed his attire from being the Evil McEvil evil skirt thing, it's clear that in this situation, Bushi stole his skirt, and in turn, his IWGP heavyweight title powers. It is in this idea, and in future shows, we shall see Evil walk up to the microphone and speak. Imagine I'm saying this in Japanese. Bushi, you stole my skirt, and in turn, I shall steal your soul. And in that situation, we begin our program, Evil versus Bushi. The members of LIJ, who are the least featured, and now, in our hearts, the most prominent. We see Evil walk across the stage, not stage, ring, and he's there, in tag matches against Bushi. Bushi, as they're currently wrestling, you need to build Bushi's credibility. He spits the green mist right in his face. He rolls him up, 1, 2, 3, we get a shock victory! Bushi, the Junior, has pinned Evil! What do we do from there? We see him eventually complain and say, I want a match with Bushi. How dare he disrespect me? How dare he hit me in said thing? And they continue on. They continue their feud into... I've forgotten the thing. I'm assuming Sakura Genesis. We will say Sakura Genesis. So, Evil, he is out there. He's fighting. He's looking for his skirt because he knows that is the reason he won the IWGP heavyweight title from Tetsuya Naito. He continues on, and Bushi comes out wearing his technical mask within a mask. It's the maskception of Bushi. But what is this mask made of? That's right, the skirt of Evil. It's a big battle fight because Evil is PO'd. He has seen that Bushi has taken his mask and made it into his skirt, and made it into a mask. What has the world come to? What do? We fight. And that's what happens. We get all the classic Evil lariats. We get his everything is evil. Darkness falls. He just destroys Bushi. Bushi tries to fight back, and he does by throwing the skirt at his face. That doesn't stop Evil. It only makes him stronger, faster, better. He can destroy anyone with this skirt, for he ain't just the boarded club. He is the Skirt Club, baby. And then he hits Darkness Falls, and everything is evil! And then our story ends. Evil, the once confident member of LIJ, now an independent, skirt-wearing, loud and proud IWGP heavyweight and intercontinental champion. He cuts his promo and he says that everything is evil. Long live evil, because evil is just too sweet. Okay, so yep, that's the dumpster fire that is Fantasy Fumble. If you ever tune in next week, or whenever I decide to post another episode, yeah, we'll have more of that. I don't know what my next episode will be, but I will get something done. If you enjoyed this, great, I hope I made your day. If not, you know what? Thank you for at least listening and hearing what this is. I want to work on this and see where this goes. Apart from that, this was kind of a first time thing. I'm gonna be honest, I've been trying with this stuff and thought, hey, I don't know how I can do this. Let's try and make a podcast. How hard could that be? Turns out, harder than you think. So, yeah, this is the first episode, and I know I've just said that multiple times, but I just want to say thank you to everyone who's listened. I know I've said that multiple times now, but I really do mean it. I don't really know how to end this. I don't really have like a clever ending for this, so if you stuck around for this part where I'm just rambling, I hope you all have a lovely day. And feel free to tune in next week if you feel like it. Why not? So, let's talk about wrestling and let's make wrestling fun again. See you all. Bye.